So here we're going to graph, lovely, the equation z equals 4 minus x squared minus y squared using traces. And typically what I do is we start with, and sometimes that's all I need, the coordinate plane traces. For example, I could start with the xy trace. The xy trace is defined by z equals 0. And if I let z equal 0 in this equation, I get 0 equals 4 minus x squared minus 4y squared. And if I rewrite that as x squared plus 4y squared equals 4, I see that that's the equation of an ellipse. Now, the way I'm going to graph this ellipse is very simply by finding its x and y intercepts. To get the x-intercepts, you set y equal to 0, and you get x equals plus or minus 2. So here's x equals 2, here's x equals negative 2. And then to get the y-intercepts, do the same thing, set x equal to 0. You get 4y squared equals 4, which says y squared is 1, which says y is plus or minus 1. And so this ellipse lives in the xy plane, looks something like this. So let's look at some of the other traces. Let's look at the xz trace. That's defined by y equals 0. When I let y equals 0, I get z equals 4 minus x squared, which is a parabola. It lies in the xz plane. That parabola has x-intercepts 2 and negative 2, and the y-intercept is, the z-intercept is 4. So it's actually this parabola here. And then let's do the yz trace. That's defined by, the yz plane is defined by x equals 0. So we let x be 0 up here, and we get z equals 4 minus 4y squared. Now that's also a parabola. The y-intercept I get by intercepts I get by setting z equal to 0. When I set z equal to 0, I get 4y squared equals 4, which says y is plus or minus 1. So that's these points here. And the z-intercept is 4. And this parabola lives in the yz plane. It's skinnier than the other parabola that we just drew. And actually this is enough information to finish the sketch. Let me go ahead and change mode here. So I'm going to start shading a little bit, make it look a little bit better. So I think of what I put up thus far, the traces, as like the skeleton. And now I'm shading, and I hope that you can see this taking shape. Be nice if I could make that a little bit darker. Maybe I'll do that in the next video. These shading tools are not horrible, not great either. Not the greatest shading in the world. I hope that you get the idea, though. What this looks like is, it looks like a bowl that opens downward. And I've just drawn a piece of it. I haven't drawn, of course I can't draw the whole thing because it extends indefinitely downward. But this is an example of something called an elliptic paraboloid. The naming scheme kind of comes from the fact that if you look at the traces, this is an ellipse, and the other two traces are parabolas, so we call it a paraboloid, and then the modifying adjective comes from the odd man out trace, which is the ellipse.